Good morning. It's Debbie Potts. Well, it could be afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this. I wanted to do a short video on how you might want to rearrange your workout schedule per week to be fit and healthy as you age. And what I'm talking a lot about lately on the podcast is gut health and oxidative stress, heart rate variability, talking about how you as a fit and active individual could possibly be interested in improving your gut health, your microbiome, leaky gut, food sensitivities, all these things that can impact our gut health by looking at heart rate variability, looking at different markers, rearranging your workout program so we're not doing too much. The Goldilocks effect for everything. What's the magic dose for you, the unique individual, looking at your genetics too, to improve your performance in life today and, as I would say, your future self. So let's dive in some articles I put together today to discuss with you on exercising for longevity. So we know we've got Peter Tia talking about exercise and the pillars of health for longevity. Exercise might be the most potent drug we have for extending the quality and perhaps quantity of our years. This framework for exercise is built upon 4 pillars, which I talk a lot about. My own personal experience as a personal trainer and coach for 25 plus years. We need not just zone 2 training. We need strength, get stronger as we age. We need fast twitch muscle fiber work, especially women. We have less of it already. And then what do we lose as we age? So we need more strength. But we also need mobility. I was watching Oceanside 70.3 triathlon yesterday on the run course, the last part of the triathlon. Yes, people just swam and biked, but I see people, including myself, not look so great in running form. We just look tight. And I think it's really important to add mobility into your routine. So we need stability, strength, aerobic zone 2 training, and aerobic zone 5 training. And as I continue to discuss what I do with Pinoy metabolic testing in North San Diego, and I can go anywhere. I took it to Hawaii with me, Kona, for Christmas, and tested people on determining what your current heart zone training numbers are, what heart rate is your zone 2, where you're burning the peak fat mass. Peter Tia continues to talk about zone 2 and zone 5 training. Thus, Huberman and Rhonda Patrick, they're all kind of talking about improving your VO2 max, right? So there's all these articles on Peter's website. But also, I like to listen to Dr. Gabrielle Lyon about improving your strength. And then we need Dr. Stacy Sims information on women are different than men. What did they need? So this is kind of, yes, we all need this, but what exactly is a personalized prescription for your longevity program? We're all going to be slightly different. So a couple things. Yes, zone 2 and zone 5 training. Zone 5 training, but also zone 4 can improve your VO2 max. So you go back to this article, we've been talking about VO2 max. But how much is too much? So here's an article kind of led me to doing this little whole podcast episode. Marathon handbook email I got. How much is too much? If you are running too much, and as I said at the triathlon, a lot of triathletes are looking really tight when we run and biking. And just think, if you're sitting all day, it's not a great combination of sitting and training on the bike and running. We need more opening and freestyle swimming. We want more backstroke, more opening up. We want more extension. We want to work more posterior chain and lateral movements and getting the different planes of motion. So mobility training is really important. Most nights a week, Neil and I do a little stretching routine before we go read in bed and put our yoga mats out, do say 5 minutes or more, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the day and night, and just do stretching per side. And then my morning routine, when I go to the gym and lift weights, I do some mobility training. I'm so tight. I'm also adding anti-inflammatory supplements as omega-3 fatty acids, trying to take 3 to 5 grams of those a day. And then I'm taking my magnesium at night. But really work on reducing inflammation. And that's another topic. What are those inflammatory markers? Your CRP levels, triglycerides, what is your insulin looking like? And looking at your blood chemistry panel, but are you running too much? So 14 signs you're running too much. Signs of overtraining, listening to your body warning cycles. As I have talked for years, since 2013, when I got my adrenal exhaustion, really looking at how much is too much, and we are so different. I always wondered, okay, why did I have other friends that would do Ironman qualify race and then Ironman Hawaii in October and do other races in off season? Maybe they weren't doing marathons and 50K trail runs as I was, but what was different? What are my genetics to your genetics that I can't tolerate as much stress? And the oxidative stress levels are higher, and I need to individualize it. So are you running too much if you're a runner or triathlete? I think a lot of good conversations to go into with client is it better to run more? How much running is too much running? 14 signs you're overtraining or running too much. You aren't hungry. You have a low sex drive. Libido is pretty low in most of us athletes. Your performance is declining or plateauing despite training hard. You are unusually fatigued. Burnout is a real risk and show excessive fatigue. That's where I also like to look at people's cortisol levels. If you do a Dutch hormone panel, it is a dried urine test. 5 markers throughout the day will tell us your cortisol rhythm. We can learn a lot of the different patterns we see from that Dutch test. If you have signs and symptoms of hyperadrenals versus hypo. Now, and there's optimal amount in between, being too high, too low in cortisol levels. But signs of burnout and breakdown internally is what happened to me. And that's kind of my purpose of this podcast and switching from audio podcast platforms to more YouTube channel is looking at red flags that we might ignore for years until we see something. It's like diabetes. Type 2 diabetics can have signs and symptoms, I read, up to 10 years before they actually get diagnosed as type 2 diabetic. So wouldn't you want to know that information ahead of time so you can course correct rather than be diabetic, type 2 diabetic, or get adrenal exhaustion because you did too much? So checking your heart rate variability, checking your scores, being intuitive, because you can't depend on these Aura rings and Whoop bands without listening to your own body. How do you feel? So you kind of know you are fatigued. You know if you feel sluggish in workout because your workout's kind of crappy. You just can't get power, speed, and move right. So that's kind of intuitive. You have trouble sleeping. Well, you don't need a device to tell you your sleep sucks. So knowing if you woke up 10 times on your Aura ring, I already knew that. But so paying attention how you feel, being mindful and paying attention to these red flags. Another one, even after rest days, you aren't fully recovered for your next run. So example, again, Ironman 70.3 in Oceanside yesterday, triathlon. How many of those athletes are going to start just ramping up their training this week and not take a deload week? So we want to taper and then reverse taper after a race. And a lot of people, especially I had friends that raced, they didn't have their ideal race because they were battling some illnesses. And then I'm sure they're going to just ramp up today and go try to make up for their crappy race yesterday instead of going, I need more just gentle workout, going for a walk, going for easy spin bike ride outside and walking on the beach or something instead of just trying to run. So running, even after rest day, you don't feel recovered. You're irritable. Good sign, something's going on. You're cranky. Resting heart rate is elevated 3 to 5 beats more than usual. So you can track that on your Garmin or your Aura or Whoop. You're getting sick frequently. Obviously a red flag, but obviously not so obvious to some people because they pay attention to their training schedule, not to how they feel. So you're getting injured more frequently. Running too often will increase risk for injury. So I have some new clients that are coming to me because they're training for marathons and they continue to get injured. So let's look at, what are you doing now? What could you improve? What are you not doing enough of? And let's look at well-balanced training and recovery program, as well as your sleep, your stress, your gut health, your nutritional therapy. So we don't want to have these overuse injuries as shin splits and stress fractures. They're common signs, but why do we have to get to the point of having a stress fracture? Because we should have had those red flags we've been paying attention to in advance. And that's kind of like going back again to my purpose here. As adrenal exhaustion hit me in March of 2013, it was probably the previous 3 years I was ignoring. I was living life as a race every day. So you have aches and pains, excessive muscle soreness, and big red flags. You feel unmotivated and burnt out on training. You just don't want to do anything. Something else is going on. It could not just be overtraining, but some other external stressors in your life, or a lot of times it could relate to our gut health. You feel unmotivated, hard time focusing, just in life in general. So how many miles should you run a day? This article talks about, again, they say what I would say. It depends. Everybody's different. Everybody's body is different. Our genetics are different. Our life stressors are different. Our internal stressors are different. So your mileage goal depends on what you're training for, but the background, the schedule, the training response, and ability. Again, this is where I think it's really important to do metabolic testing, as I do with clients every 3 months, and get plan based on the test results. How much do I need to run a week to get faster? And that depends. I would say also, how old are you? Females, our hormones are different. What time of the month are you in your cycle? Your hormones change, and we kind of can adjust your workouts follicular to luteal phase. And then if you're getting older, as I am, we're closer to menopause. You might not be there as I'm not there, but your hormones are low, and you might need to change and do more. What Dr. Stacey Sims talks about, more of the sprint interval training and less zone 2. I mean, zone 2 once a week. So this article says, think about time spent running instead of mileage, depending on how well trained you are, how many minutes. 75, 90 minutes should be the cap of your daily run. I would disagree. I think less is more for a lot of us people that are stressed out. When you run a 6 or 12 mile in that time, mid workout can be slightly long, and then a long run with 25, 30% weekly mileage is your long run. So this is where I think is different. I'm finding less is more. Weekday runs are more with purpose, doing speed work, warm up, warm down, doing sprint 30 seconds, doing hill repeats, doing more of a workout that works best for me, where I am in my aging process and my body changing, and embracing the aging process, not blaming it, but make those adjustments based on my lower hormones. And slow twitch muscle fibers are already good. I need more fast twitch. So different things to think about here in this article from the Marathon Handbook. If you're training for marathon or long distance running, at what factors determine how much running per week? Feeling fresh. Do I have any aches and pains? Kind of check in with yourself. How do I feel? What does that mean? Am I feeling sluggish? To me, these questions are great to decide, am I doing too much zone 2? Am I doing too much long volume? As a female aging athlete, I don't need the high volume. As an athlete who's been doing endurance training since I started doing races when I was 25, and I'm now 52 years old, that I would benefit more from the shorter 45-minute workouts with purpose in between, a warm up and warm down, and then a long run on the weekend, maybe it's an hour and a half to 2 hours if I'm just doing a half marathon or longer, but I don't need to spend all that time doing that. I need more strength training, power and sprint. So overtraining syndrome, we talked about the other episode. Overtraining OTS, prolonged unexplained decrease in sports performance and fatigue, psychological manifestations. And so there's good information I went over with Ruba Health article. The changes we find with aging we need to look at too. So this is in another article, the aging athlete, how to get there, how to stay there. So this was interesting one to look at. And the physiological changes with aging. So maybe you're training for a marathon, 50K, 10K, maybe you're doing triathlons this year. But if you're getting older, spending all that time doing cardio each week, you're doing zone 2, whatever heart zone workouts you're doing. So remember, Peter Tia is talking for aging, the 80-20 workouts, how much zone 2 and zone 5, 80-20% he talks about. the centenarian Olympics. But what if you are like me and you've been doing long distance stuff for 25 years? You don't need all that. It's a female. So we're going to individualize all this information for you instead of reading these blogs, listening to these videos and podcasts, and then realize you're trying to do something someone else says and not listening to what you need. You are unique. Okay, so muscle mass and strength, really important. I have clients that I keep trying to focus on training for marathon or ultra running, focus on strength building first, build that foundation up. Doing more and more cardio maybe isn't best. Dr. Jason Karp talks about doing more your strength work for runners outside on hills and doing 30-second hill repeats. So that's a good way to be more sport specific. But I think we need to look at our lean body mass and strength and not being so catabolic with lots of cardio training. So if you are feeling different in your body as you age and how you perform well in life and your sports each day, then really paying attention to mixing up your workouts. You're adding in more focus on this muscle strength and avoiding sarcopenia. We also, bone density, that's a big part of aging. And what we're doing, that weight bearing exercise is really helpful. But working on mobility, joint health, this is a lot of, adding bone broth in your diet, getting that gelatinous bone broth. So you're getting the collagen. And I've got these annoying crows outside of my tree. Get out of here. So bone density, joint health, really important. Now, metabolic rate, this is what I test with clients. Cardiovascular changes, and then hormones I can do with the functional lab testing we run. Now, metabolic rate, the BMR, basal metabolic rate, this tends to decrease with age. And I've done a lot of articles on this and Rabbit Hole podcasts. This blows me away. When you look at what slows down our metabolism as we age, it just does. I don't understand why we don't read all those factors that we've talked about to improve your metabolic rate. So metabolic rate decreases with age, measuring body, how many calories you burn at rest. And I do this with Kanoe metabolic testing and the resting test. And then the active test, we can see where you burn the most fat for your workouts. Now, this can lead to increased fat accumulation and make weight management more challenging. I also do a full thyroid panel looking at your T4 and your T3. And if you have enough T3 on board, are you converting T4 to T3? Are you making enough thyroid hormones? TSH is what the doctors test, thyroid stimulating hormone. But let's look at how much actual free T3 do we have available. And then that could lead to diving into liver congestion, gut health issues, as well as other things that impact our thyroid. But that will also slow your metabolism down. So if our metabolism slows down as we age, let's look at what we're doing. Are you doing strength training, lean body mass? If we lose that, so going back to number one, individuals age, we experience a gradual loss of muscle mass and strength. The sarcopenia declining as we hit as early as the 30s and accelerate with age. Sarcopenia can affect balance, gait, physical performance, and of course, go to number 4, metabolic rate. So our BMR goes down. Our muscle strength goes down. How do you increase your metabolic rate? Lifting weights, getting stronger, doing more strength training, and adding in protein at the right times of the day, getting muscle protein synthesis. And I've done lots of videos on that because most people are not eating the right type of amino acid profile we want for stimulating mTOR, muscle protein synthesis, with the right leucine content of 3 grams in that essential amino acid profile, hitting 30 to 50 grams of protein at once. Not getting 10 grams of protein spread throughout the day is not the right dose. 3 times a day, whatever, 4 times a day to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So go back and listen to those Rabbit Hole podcasts. Okay, other thing we see as we age, as Peter Attia keeps talking about, VO2 max. As aging can affect cardiovascular system, leading to decreased VO2 max, increased blood pressure, decreased max heart rate. These changes can affect endurance and intensity at which one safely can exercise. Well, let's test and not guess, as I do with the Kanoe metabolic testing. And as Peter Tia keeps talking about everyone else, the VO2 max is the sign of longevity. Higher number, the better. Now, how do you improve VO2 max? That's where we need to individualize it. But doing the VO2 max workouts, I keep talking about the 4x4 type of workout. Women, Stacy Sim says, okay, again, they're putting everyone, men and women, and looking at research often is just done on men. So if we want to look at how to improve the VO2 max, zone 5 is more, I think, the 10 to 30 second sprint interval training to a minute. Zone 4 training is going to be that 1 to 5 minute pieces that we're talking about. So if you're doing the VO2 max training, zone 4, 1 to 4 minutes, come down to zone 1. If you're doing the sprint interval training to improve VO2 max, that's no more than 45 seconds, all out and come down to zone 1. Most people, to improve this VO2 max number, are not actually doing zone 2. They're in zone 3 often. So remember, zone 2 is where your peak fat max is, so where your metabolic crossover point is that I test. And then your zone 4 and zone 5, most people are not there. You're not pushing yourself hard enough to stimulate those changes to improve VO2 max. So we want to know, what is that heart rate in my zone 4 where I'm trying to hit to get that change in my mitochondria and my VO2 max changes. So we want to look at that. Okay, hormonal changes. I know my estrogen is super low, testosterone is low, so taking some DHA can help and supplementing, but we want to work on embracing our training program, as Dr. Stacy Sims talks about for women, but men as well, is how do you improve testosterone? Muscle mass, bone density, fat distribution can be improved with how we train, fuel train, and perform each day in life. Form part with lifestyle habits is stress management and sleep hygiene routine and quality sleep. Flexibility, mobility, we talked about how poor everyone looked like they were running yesterday in the race and just running in a training run. I know I just feel stiff. And so your tendons and ligaments become less elastic with age, decreasing flexibility, mobility, maybe sitting more as well. And I think it's really important to include foam roller, stability ball, BOSU, doing some movements, extension, opening up, doing some yoga flow, restorative yoga, yin yoga, and adding in mobility training to help improve this. Because I know for me, I really need to prioritize this because as I said, I'm super tight and I don't look that great running. So balance and coordination, also something someone told me years ago, personal training client, just to be able to get their pants on. And I know a few people's parents actually last few years, as they get older, someone broke their hip by trying to get dressed in the morning. So you don't want to break the hip as we're older. So we want really focus on flexibility, mobility, balance, coordination, strength, VO2 max workouts, zone 2, getting all that in, but lifting heavy weights too for all these benefits. So looking at how we should train as we age is another thing I want to keep focusing on. So the effects of aging on the muscles, so sarcopenia, great information. I'll put this link in the show notes, healthy muscle mass and muscle loss and sarcopenia. And I think it's also looking at your stress level because, as I said, we've got too much cortisol, we get to be catabolic, breaking down, versus balance, again, Goldilocks, catabolic, anabolic, breakdown, build up, mTOR, AMPK. Everything is, your body's super smart. We have this innate intelligence to keep us in homeostasis, balance. So too much, too little, finding what's the right amount. So we got everything in balance. So having the right muscle build up more than breaking down is important. So great information, which exercise is best, something that you do. I think lifting weights with some cardio movement in between, if you're doing more complex movements, I've been putting my heart rate strap on when I go to the gym. My heart rate stays 120, 130, and then comes down when I rest, move to different exercises. But if I do a squat, and then a shoulder press, if I do bicep curls and lunges, if I do a plie wide squat with a tricep overhead, I am getting my heart rate up at the same time I'm lifting weights. Not anaerobic, but it's keeping it aerobic. So good information on that article. And then last little bit, I talked about this Rupa Health article. I thought was a great one to go back to on the role of functional nutrition in preventing overtraining syndrome and optimizing athletic performance. So functional nutrition, if you don't know, it's kind of what I like to think of it, what I do as a holistic health practitioner and coach, that you're working on the physical, spiritual, and emotional part of our self, and using healthy whole food nutritional interventions first to address root causes of illness and support optimal gut health. Instead of focusing on calories in, calories out, functional nutrition also pays attention to micronutrient density, as well as each person's individual habits, environment, genetics, stress, and other factors. So considering all this in a functional ways, what I've been evolving as a coach, putting this all together. So just going back to the beginning of the conversation of overtraining, again, you see this list: depressed mood, fatigue, hormonal changes, poor recovery, loss of motivation, slower, fast heart rate, can't sleep, insomnia, irritability. I mean, I know after we do a long, hard run on the weekend or a long bike ride, my sleep is a little bit less quality. Heavy, sore, stiff muscles, brain fog, anxiety, weight loss, muscle loss, amenorrhea, decreased physical performance in your sports. So lots of red flags: dehydration, excess inflammation. And this is the next rabbit hole I'm going into: inflammation, oxidative stress, as well as HPA system, your stress system, and alterations in our microbiome, and how your microbiome is connected to your stress level, but your gut brain connection, and looking at your heart rate variability. So big part of using your heart rate variability to figure out where you are, and doing lab testing as a comprehensive metabolic panel, oxidative stress panel. We can look at signs of inflammation, oxidative stress markers to help identify if you are having excessive oxidative stress contributing to overtraining syndrome. Looking at your omega-3 index and provide information and clues to your state of inflammation, and help with recovery plans with optimal nutrition and performance. Keys: optimal fat, omega-3 fats and levels are important to keep inflammation down. So I have been upping my omega-3. So check that out. I am out of time, so head out to the show notes to find more on how you can be healthy from the inside out, fit and healthy, and improve the aging process. We're also going to talk about skin fitness, as well as oxidative stress and more. So stay tuned. I hope you like these rabbit hole